All right, if you have a question for Tierna, please raise your hand, your Zoom hand, and we'll get this going. I think it was appropriate that we ended with Annie, and we'll start with her again. Go ahead, Annie Costabile.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Tierna, we spoke before the She Believes Cup, and you talked about it being kind of a daunting thought if you get carried away with the future and where things can lead. And I wonder what your perspective is now coming to the end of the She Believes Cup and your confidence in your game and being a part of that 18-player roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will just echo the same sentiment that I had coming into the camp, is that it is very daunting to consider how many players that are just so high quality in this environment and how few players can be on an Olympic roster. And so I think that for myself, it's focusing on showing up to practice every day and then showing up to the games every day, whether it's me on the field or me on the bench being ready to get onto the field. So, you know, it's hard to think about it and to, you know, try and place myself amongst the 18 without getting too carried away. So I'd like to say that I'm hopeful that I can be on that 18-person roster, but for me, it's every day at training, whether it's here or in Chicago, that's most important for me.
And how excited are you to return to Chicago to 40-degree weather as opposed to the 10 degrees and negative below zero it has been?
Yeah, Casey and I have definitely been tracking the weather, been saying, oh, it's looking up, oh, you know, the snow might be melting, or it looks like the snow is kind of trailing off a little bit. So, yeah, I think we're excited to get back into weather that's a little bit less frigid.
Awesome. Thanks, Tierna.
Let's go to Steph Young. Go ahead, Steph.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Tierna, for your time. Slightly more serious question. Tierna, the team has stopped kneeling during the anthem, and I want to really emphasize this is not a question to you about kneeling versus standing in and of themselves, right? They're symbols. They're there to spur action, more thought. But I think it's understandable when fans, you know, Black fans in particular, they keep hearing from players, you know, we're having conversations. And then they see that this happens, it starts to feel a little disingenuous, right? Because when the only tangible symbol of the work stops, it might feel like those conversations are becoming more tenuous. Crystal talked to us about feeling like it was time to start focusing your efforts off the field, redirecting your energy. So I want to ask you, what are the white players on this team in particular doing to materially support their Black teammates in that off-field work?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Yeah, and it is definitely something that is hard to talk about and is hard to take that next step, because us as white players want to do everything that we can to support the Black players and to, you know, put their voice at the forefront, but also not require them to do all the work and always be front facing. And so that's something that we've definitely talked about as a group and definitely have grappled with. But, you know, working with the BWPC, working with the NWSL to go back into our home markets and to continue to make effective change in our home markets is, I think, something that we are really focusing on as white players and as white players that are supporting and advocating for our Black teammates. And, you know, that's something that takes time. It's not something that is going to show up, you know, in just a couple weeks or just a couple camps, but those conversations are being had. And it's continuing to improve, and, you know, hopefully we're going to see a couple things in the next couple of months that we're working on with the BWPC, which we're very excited about. I don't want to ruin any surprises or anything that hasn't been released to the media yet, but we're very excited, and, you know, we're continuing to look for ways that we can get more involved. Obviously, with COVID, it has been a little bit more difficult to be on the ground in our communities, really making a difference. But, you know, we're working our way around that. And with the support of our Black players and with the support of our white advocates on the team, it's been a really fantastic journey.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks, T. Let's go to Steve Goff.
Thanks for your time. Wanted to ask you about Becky as the captain. What leadership qualities have you seen from her? I mean, obviously, whether she's labeled the captain or not, she shows those. But what have you seen from her as the captain and leader of this team?
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly about how she has fantastic leadership qualities, whether she's labeled as it or not. And something for me personally is she has been such a fantastic not only role model, but also very approachable player and teammate and person, especially being in the same position as her, and trying to learn as much as I can from her. She's been a fantastic player to go to for advice, both on and off the field. I just think that's something that I love about her so much, is that she pays attention to everybody in different positions, not positions on the field necessarily, but positions, whether it's, how new you are, or the kind of playing time you get, or, whatever outside situation you might be coming from. And I think that's something that is incredibly important in a leader to take into account very different opinions that can happen on a team. And I think she does that with a lot of grace and a lot of poise, and that's something that I really admire about her.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Steve. Let's go to Meg Linehan. Meg, you are up.
Hi, Tierna. I just wanted to circle back to the topic that Steph was addressing, just in terms of, I think Chicago, there have been a lot of community efforts on a lot of things concerning Black Lives Matter, but also, I think there has been a concerted effort from the front office to improve on that front, if not necessarily getting it perfect yet, right? Like, the intent is there. Sarah Gordon has obviously done a lot off the field on this front, but is there a particular benefit to having some of this national team time where players who are in the BWPC can kind of communicate what they're looking for in terms of support? Like, are these conversations different in allowing you to then bring that work back to the NWSL right now?
Yeah, I would definitely say that this time here in camp is really beneficial, especially because we obviously recognize that the players that come into these camps usually have a greater sphere of influence, whether it just be in our home markets or, nationally. And so I think that the conversations that can be had and are being had are really, really beneficial, just because, we realize that we have a lot of influence not only on our teammates as leaders when we go back into our home markets, but also with fans and, the ability to grab people's attention and to get people to listen. So yeah, the conversations here do add a lot of value and a lot of, good quality just above what we're seeing in our home markets, which is great.
Thank you, Tierna.
Thank you, Tierna. We just got one more for Tierna. It goes to Sean McCaffrey. Go ahead, Sean.
Tierna, recently you were in on a big diversity and inclusion seminar. I wanted to know your feeling on that, how big of an honor it was, particularly being so young on a team with many more senior players, to be a spokesperson on that.
Yeah, that was fantastic. It was a D&I thing with Deloitte, and I loved it, especially because I don't really feel like I've ever been on a panel with other fantastic women outside of soccer, outside of sport, and so it was amazing to see such strong and independent and trailblazing women in tech, in business, in different industries, and to hear how they have struggled and overcome their struggles in their own specific sectors and how they continue to mentor the younger generation. So it was really amazing to be part of that conversation, and I learned so much from those women.
Awesome. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks, Tierna.